Well then, I think we're all able to just start this charade. What do you think?
I like charades.
Charades.
Everyone loves a charade.
Yes. I like your hat.
Thanks.
It reminds me of the 90s.
You would be correct. These are the 90s. Well, actually, 92 through 99-ish Padre colors. Orange and white for those who cannot see me.
Orange and white.
And that's San Diego Padres Baseball Club for those
Who don't know what sports or places are.
I always thought it was funny that they called them clubs.
Yeah, it's a bat.
womp womp.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Arrow of Time. My name is Matt,
I'm Joseph.
I am Gabe.
and this is episode 135.
Indeed.
All right, so we have an episode that is written by two people.
Peter Harness, who gave us Kill the Moon and the Zygon Invasion, co-wrote by Stephen Moffat, who co-wrote with Harness the Zygon Inversion.
And also, if you didn't know, Stephen Moffat also gave us The Empty Child and The Doctor Dances.
Oh, this is take a while.
Yeah, The Girl in the Fireplace, Blink, The Forest of the Dead, and The Library in the Girl's Head,
Getting warmer.
and
The 11th hour, the 12th hour.
Yes, and then oh no, I'm not going to do that. If I just rattled off every Stephen Moffat episode, then we'd all be sad. He's got more stinkers than he's got hits. I don't know. That could be an opinion. I haven't crunched the numbers on that one, so.
But there's one more episode he wrote. It's called The Pyramid at the End of the World.
The Pyramid at the End of the World, written by Stephen Moffat and Peter Harness. So, by the same production company that gave us the Zygon Inversion,
Correct.
comes
Well,
this one.
awkwardly said a minute ago.
Awkward. Yeah.
Because Peter Harness singly wrote Kill the Moon and the Zygon Invasion.
We wanted to make no mistake about it that he has written horrible episodes. We wanted to point that out, right?
Yeah, by himself, he's batting zero.
Kill the Moon was horrible. I wouldn't say the Zygon Invasion was horrible.
Okay, it was like he reached on an error in that one.
It was just a means to get to something else for me. I don't know. I love the Zygon story, that particular one, but that first part, the Zygon Invasion, was not my favorite. It was just like, okay, when do we get to the good stuff?
Well, you're in luck because the pyramid at the end of the world is the never say never again to the Zygon Invasion's Thunderball.
I don't know what that means, Reach.
Basically, he got
I can't make that. I can't. My brain can't process that this quickly.
he got a second chance to do the first episode, the invasion again.
Oh, okay.
Because this is basically more of the same. Doctor gets called up to be president of the Earth. The UN shows up and whisks them off to locales where strange things are occurring, even though he could get there faster than the TARDIS.
There's an alien invasion for us.
There's an alien invasion.
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of these elements are just straight up rewrite of the Zygon Invasion.
So this is probably. I think people could probably have some issues, the same issues that they have with Star Wars: The Force Awakens, where they're like, it was the same movie, except different.
Yes, because I think we all agree that the first Star Wars movie was also good.
Yes.
The fourth one. The first You know what I mean?
Yes. A New Hope. But was there hope in this episode?
No? Yes. Pass.
Pass.
I like the episode. I think that a lot of it was pretty plainly laid out for you. Like, there was the kind of misdirection of the pyramid that lands in Turkmenistan, which was a country we introduced in the Zygon inversion stories.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, did he reference himself?
He did reference himself, yes.
Oh, interesting.
So and they point out on the map, well, here's the Russians, and here's the Chinese, and here's the Americans, and they're all converging on this one point. So you get this clear idea that the threat is war started on this little plot of land. But that doesn't quite work, because from the very get-go, you see this Argo fuels, and that they're doing experiments. So you already know that's the real threat.
Yeah.
So the only people that were being misdirected really were the characters. We, the audience, knew what was happening.
But there's no misdirection. We're above that.
Though I thought you were just changing the channel a lot during the episode.
There is a lot of very like channel changey kind of abrupt transition moments. So it kind of began again with a soliloquy. I don't know, what would you call the doctor's monologuing in his TARDIS?
It tied very nicely. Like, actually, one of the first ones I made was I loved that they wrapped in the previously with the doctor's speech.
Oh yes, they did the previously and then the now. That was a fun.
Yeah, well, because there was the doctor speaking about everybody dies. You're dying right now. He goes like, you've already seen your last place and your last site, and blah blah blah. But that was that's a doctory thing, kind of making this speech, but it worked really well because it was tying in with Erica, and I can't think of his name, and their night before.
Douglas,
yes. So her glass is getting broken, him dropping his
beer bottle.
Yeah, he was getting wasted. But also they did a nice thing where they tied in the previously with Bill's memories. So she's recounting things to Penny about her travels with the doctor, and it's like flashing back between the things we actually saw that are relevant for seeing this episode, but it's also happening in the now with Penny. And
right.
That previously with Bill, and then the doctor with Erica and Douglas, all of that tied so nicely. That was really a good, solid start that kind of slapped me awake. I'm like, oh yeah, this is maybe going to be special.
Yeah, so one of the things too is that going into it, you kind of have this little hope, or maybe at least I did, of the date with Bill and Penny going a little bit differently than it did in the quote unquote dream, because you're like, okay, well, this is reality, so we'll see how this goes, and it kind of unfolded more or less the same, which was also kind of the joke, like, yeah, anyway, if it's the dream state or reality, this is what the doctor does in the end, is that
right. And I guess there's a little bit of an awkward handoff with the end of Extremis, because at the end of that, he's calling Bill, telling her to call Penny for a date because something bad may be coming tomorrow. But you also saw him talking to Missy and saying, I need your help because I'm blind. And the handoff wasn't necessarily very neat. It's almost like even though Moffat wrote Extremis and co-wrote this one, it's like they weren't quite talking to each other, Moffat and Moffat.
But didn't we also get the feeling that Extremis was kind of added in at the last minute?
So actually, I have a note about that. And
Do you think it felt like that?
It did seem that way. We had good reasons before. I don't remember what they are now.
They took 2 months to film it, and it didn't finish filming until January of this year.
That'd be some of it.
Well,
But
actually, I mean, that does make sense because it doesn't really push too much forward other than setting up the monks.
but I did learn, and we were kind of a little underinformed last week, that they filmed Extremis and Pyramid at the End of the World at the same time. So we were kind of lambasting BBC for being a little slow to make their programs, when in fact it took 2 months because they were doing two at once.
Oh, that also was the plan that came up, or the theory that this came later. So never mind.
So I do feel a little bit bad for.
I mean, it still took them a long time to put all this out.
I feel a little bad for berating them for taking so long to film the episode when they made two. But it also makes that handoff even more awkward because it's like it seemed like at the end of Extremis, the Doctor was getting ready to swing into action to stop this invasion.
Right.
And at the beginning of this episode, it's just like he's hanging out in his TARDIS, philosophizing about what it means to die.
Yeah, kind of weird. Not the most brightest moment of the Doctor's, but again, another way to set things up, especially because the idea is that in this future everybody dies, just like in a day or so the virus annihilates all life on Earth. So I think the thing that everybody here is wondering is, Joseph, what did you think
About the virus?
about this?
Well, that is a problem
episode?
because they show the future to the people. The timelines. Like they're planning like, here's our simulation show, but they show like trees and stuff. So obviously it didn't kill all life in the future. There's still hope. That's what I think. There's hope.
There's hope.
Well, the people were all dead.
But the trees were there.
They didn't look healthy. Everything looked like it was the fog of Death Planet.
Fog of Death Planet.
That was probably maybe a third, fourth Doctor story.
Yes.
Well, no, so my whole point though was just that it would have been nice, given the way that Extremis ended, if this one began a bit more actiony. Because again, I got the distinct feeling that the Doctor was about to put a plan in action, and that it was an awkward handoff.
They had to it felt like they were kind of re-ramping everything up again.
Right.
I did enjoy though that previously where it was going back and forth between a true previously and now, and so that was kind of a fun way to play with that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I liked that, and I liked the Doctor's speech with Erica and Douglas's their own previously.
Yeah.
But they could have still done that and still had the Doctor not having to get kidnapped by UNIT to get into action. That's the rub for me.
Yeah. So it's like, all right, well, where's the starting point? Unless I was just kind of thinking, what if at the end of Extremis, when the Doctor calls Bill, he's already kind of been prepped by UNIT, and like those motions have already been sent into action, except we, the audience, don't know that yet, and we're just now getting caught up. But no, that doesn't make sense because then that date would have already happened. So yeah, okay, no, they botched it up. They botched it.
I don't think they botched it, but
They botched it. They botched it, Gabe.
it could have been a little bit better.
Yeah. But if they did do that, that would have been like a smoother handoff to be like, okay, these things have already kind of gone into play. Now you're seeing like this other angle of it, and then now we're still setting it up. That probably would have been a little bit better, other than having like two different entry points, because like you mentioned in Extremis, the Doctor was like, all right, something's gonna happen, we're gonna have to launch into this, get ready, and then all of a sudden here's UNIT looking for the Doctor.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah,
And not just looking for him, but having to kidnap him, because apparently Well, I would imagine they tried knocking, before, and it wasn't until Bill came that he was like, okay, what do you want?
Yeah. And the whole thing of getting the TARDIS out of the room is like, oh, no, you can't because the windows are too small. Like, they got bigger. So now there's a big hole inside of University.
So I will also note this was directed by Daniel Nettheim, who previously directed the Zygon invasion and version.
Wow, they're just pulling out all the stops.
This is seems to be the new harness mix, is directed by Nettheim, about alien invasions with the United Nations, and yeah.
Got to get Harness on a strict routine, non-fail routine over here with all the same people, so he doesn't accidentally do another Kill the Moon. I'm sorry, am I being too harsh on you, Peter Harness?
We'll see. I liked this episode. It sounds like we've been talking for about 10 minutes. It may sound like I've been bashing it, but I'm not bashing it. I did like it. I think that it could have been even better.
Yeah, and actually, I'll spoiler this right now. My feelings. I liked it. I liked the episode. I felt that it was a little bit too slow in the beginning for me. Like, I was watching it and going, all right, when is the thing going to happen? And then once it kicked into gear, once we had that really good meeting inside the pyramid with the monks, and things started kicking into gear, then I was on board. I'm like, all right, yeah, okay, I'm digging this. But it definitely felt like the episode was taking its sweet time to get there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of what I was going into at the very beginning of the episode, having a lot of misdirection, but not for us. I think because we knew more or less what was going to happen, it seemed like it was a little bit of time wasting. But I think that it's more than that. I think that the episode unfolding before us is important because it does reveal sort of the meat and potatoes of some of the characters, especially Erica.
Yeah.
But even the military leaders that we round up. I mean, it does feel like it doesn't matter what they're going to do. But at the same time, I think it's important.
Got a good Trump joke in there.
They did. Well, that was from the get-go with Bill.
Yes.
When the UN says, we need you to help with the president. And she was like, well, he's not my president. I couldn't vote for him. And then she's like, not that I would anyway. He's orange.
Yes. Yeah. The second I heard that, I was like, Gabe's on board with this episode. I already know the outcome. Isn't it funny the way that Doctor Who recently, at least this season, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like it's getting more political, like it's showing more political colors than it has before.
I mean, I think that certainly in the Moffat era, it's always been political. But I think that this season, they're a little bit more upfront with it.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's some of the stuff that I really like. Like, Thin Ice continues to be one of my favorites of this season, in part because they didn't pull any punches with the ideas of racism and classism that are in there. And same thing with Oxygen.
Oxygen.
Because, again...
Oh, yeah, with the capitalism.
Yeah, I mean, they pulled no punches. This is what we think. This is capitalism to the extreme, is that human lives have no value. Their value is simply as workers and spenders. But I think that's also good. I mean, I've mentioned on this podcast before, part of why I personally like science fiction is it can very easily be used as a vehicle to kind of talk about these political messages without necessarily being overtly political.
Right. Definitely, they can use those allegories I like to say allegories a lot, but I mean they can use their function and what they are, because they could be the past or the future, mainly the future, it seems, or if it is the past, somewhere like a society so far away that it's not ours, but it can reflect ours. And I'm just thinking about Deep Space Nine, where a lot of that is so much politics.
Well, it is, but all of Star Trek is not always politics, but it does have deeper meanings of humanity and themes that include politics, but are also, I think, even bigger than that. A lot of it is compassion, understanding, empathy, and from the original series all the way through the end of Voyager, I think they did a really good job with that.
Yeah.
Don't forget the animated series.
Oh, well, that's
Oh, is it Paul
yeah,
Simon?
yeah. That was a little dig at Enterprise, by the way, for those not non-Star Trek fans listening. But one of the things about Peter Harness is he was noted fairly early on as being kind of overtly political. A lot of people think that Kill the Moon was sort of an abortion allegory.
Really?
And what's funny is I was reading earlier the AV Club review of this episode. I think it was AV Club. And they said that they're not convinced that Peter Harness or Stephen Moffat realized they were writing an abortion allegory, but they did.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, I mean, so that's one of the things that you can do with sci-fi. And I think one of the things that surprised people from reading a few reviews is that there wasn't really an overt political statement or an allegory in this episode. I mean, there was some like black and white statements, like the Trump thing. But they didn't actually say his name, but there's that's black and white. That's not
somebody's orange.
Yes,
Gabe. Somebody is orange.
But there was no.
Who's a president?
There was no. It was not. There were no metaphorical lessons here. The biggest one that I saw in the reviews I read was just around the themes of consent. I mean, like there was.
Oh, yeah, love is consent. Yeah, that was a huge thing. Like,
well, it had to be true consent.
Yeah, true consent.
So it can't be coerced. It can't be out of fear. It can't be out of strategy. But like one of the part of the reasons why I am buying on to the idea that if he was making an allegory, it was consent. Was it like they talk about it so much? At one point, Bill does ask the monks, "Well, what is consent? What does that mean?" So I think that's probably the most metaphorical allegory-like thing in this episode.
Yeah, I think I would definitely agree with that. That's where like the meat and potatoes would be, or the kibbles and bits, perhaps, of this episode is right in the allegory of the love or the consent. What is consent?
Right.
And how do people try to manipulate that?
Well, that's obviously a big deal because somehow in the 21st century, we still have issues with consent, with like providing consent for sex is, I think, the big place where it crops up. And there are still things happening. Like in California here a couple of years ago, we passed a law that yes means yes for consent. But I think that's why that is political, is this is still like there's this whole, at least here in the US, there's so many like college rape stories that come out that are tragic. And I think that the whole idea is that most people, or I shouldn't say most people, but too many men have not internalized what consent means.
Right.
It's my being political now, see?
Look at this, Politicast. So what do you think?
This is all Harness's fault.
What do you think, Joseph? Are we getting heavy? Are we getting a little bit overly heavy for what this episode was, or do you think that this is what they're asking for? do you think that this is what they're presenting with us?
I wonder if Stephen Moffat's hand in both this and the Zygon inversion was to kind of, pull Harness back after Kill the Moon. Like Moffat's like, no, I'm going to grab you, and you can still say some things, but we need to keep this more in the realm of science fiction and not trying to be too overly political.
Perhaps.
It does seem now that Harness doesn't get. Well, there's a joke here about leashes, but he's on a short leash at this point.
Yes. Well, because even I think, like, looking at it, Zygon inversion, the Zygon stories were, I would say, political. Like socially, it's very much like a refugee story.
Right, but the thing, like, I could see Harness being possibly. He's trying to push the metaphor so hard that it wrecks the story, a la Kill the Moon.
Yeah.
And then Moffat's coming in and like saying, no, we still need to actually keep this. This is still a Doctor Who show.
Right,
so we still need to have things more or less make sense.
Yeah, I can definitely see that with Moffat trying to rein in Harness, Mr. Harness.
Yeah. Well, we won't know until we at him on Twitter. So fire up the Twitter box.
Yes.
Stephen Moffat.
Well, no, I mean, I think that there could be a little bit of Moffat trying to rein him in, but we also know that Moffat is very political, and that Moffat comes from a leftist political stance. So I don't think that Moffat wants to completely cut him off.
Silence.
I don't think he wants to cut him off at the legs.
Wrong, creepy alien guys. No, he doesn't want to, but Moffat also is dedicated to making the show
popular.
The show, so he does. Yeah. He's giving him guidelines.
Yes, I can see that.
Yeah, definitely.
And then there's some stuff in this that's so obviously Moffat, like, all the clocks counting down. That's like Moffat 101 right there.
He's never done that before.
Well, also, darn it. Never mind. Go ahead.
Well, I said all I wanted to say.
My phone went off, and I got so startled that my thought just leapt out of my head.
Well, you know what? I think? I think that I need to put some podcast juice in here so we could properly talk about what's going on.
And I will silence my phone so it no longer startles my thoughts away.
So what it sounds like to me is it's a fantastic time for a break. What do you guys think?
I agree.
Yes.
All right. And it shall be. Welcome back, everybody, to the Arrow of Time. It is post-break now, and we're going to crack into this nut so hard that there's going to be...
Don't finish that sentence.
Anyway.
If you have an allergy to peanuts, stay away.
Yes. So, we were going to... Did we ever find out, Gabe, what we're going to talk about?
We know his thought. His thought has been recovered.
So my thought was that Peter Harness, by training, is a playwright. So when we were talking about Moffat coming in to co-write these episodes with him and about reining him in,
Yeah.
I think at least part of that is related to the fact that as a playwright, he may not necessarily understand writing for television as well. He's written for other shows besides Doctor Who, but as people who work in theater, I think, Matt, you and I understand that it's different than writing for TV or movies.
Right. Very much so. And to kind of do a juxtaposition on that, I remember being in school, taking a playwriting class, and one of the film students who was newer, he wrote a script that it was supposed to be for the stage, but there's a lot of cut twos in it.
Oops.
And in live theater, you don't really cut to things unless... I mean, you could do that with lighting, but that comes a little bit later. I can imagine that mental hurdle to try to do it the other way around. It's hard transitioning from one spot to the other. So
yeah. So I think Moffat helping out is at least somewhat due to that.
Did you find out any of the works that he might have done?
plays?
Yeah, the plays.
Well, I have his page open right now. So his first play was called Mongoose. I think we might have mentioned on the
I
podcast.
think because there's something about Mongoose and Moon, and we made a joke about that.
Kill the mongoose.
Yeah.
Or that might have been Moonbase, and that might have been the second Doctor episode. I don't remember.
Yes.
But, that was in 2003.
Yeah.
But already by 2005, he was adapting things for BBC Four. So,
BBC for what?
Oh.
I do think that it looks like his training, his bread and butter is playwriting.
Okay. And generally, in playwriting, there's really the beautiful thing about playwriting is unless you're doing corporate theater or specifically asked to write a certain thing, playwriting is kind of like, hey, you do what you want. It's your art. It seems like if you're gonna go to a play, you're gonna want to ingest something a little bit more.
Well, that's me. We were having this talk right before the podcast about.
Oh yes.
I like seeing shows that generally have some sort of meaning.
And Joseph does not.
No, that's not true. I also like unpleasant shows.
But I will watch a show that has no overarching moral if it's really good. But I don't like seeing just fluff. Like right now here in San Diego, we have a play opening called Escape to Margaritaville, which is a musical about Jimmy Buffett. And I have zero interest in seeing that.
But it's educational. You learn about the biography of Jimmy Buffett.
I don't know that.
No.
So yeah, sorry. And but right before that, the same, again, Tony Award-winning regional theater company. Their previous big musical this season was Freaky Friday.
Which I heard was very good. I heard a lot of people say, get you to Freaky Friday.
But that's just not what I want from theater.
Yeah.
But you learn to look at things from other people's point of view.
Your mother's?
I don't know. I've never seen it.
Well, this is going to a place.
Well, no, because that's what Freaky Friday is about, is
Oh, okay.
mother and daughter switch places.
Yes, definitely.
So I have seen the old movie.
Starring Haley Mills and Haley Mills.
I think it was Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yes, or was it Jodie Foster and Jodie Foster? I don't know.
It's all these people and more. It's the freakiest of Fridays.
So I know what the general thing is about, but I didn't want to see the musical of it. Sorry.
No,
Your point, Peter Harness is probably used to saying something in his plays.
Yes, yeah. He's coming from a life of, and I'm just assuming that's what it's like over in England, just because that's what I think we're used to over here, where plays generally are, that's the art, and then you make money in television, writing whatever somebody's telling you to.
Right.
So,
The idea of theater is people come to a realization together in a shared space. That's what I think of theater.
Or, this is going to be great for the podcast. Clinking around ice in my mouth. Or people view a play and they're not told what it's supposed to be or what they're supposed to take away from it, but they come away with something.
Yes.
That seems generally...
In a shared space.
Yeah,
Together.
in a shared space, yes. Whereas with something like Doctor Who or some of these...
Any TV, really.
Yeah, programs, it's like, no, this is what you're supposed to get out of this.
You watch it on your Slingbox, alone, sad, drinking.
With your cats.
Your many feral cats. So any of this resonating with you, Joseph?
No, I don't like theater.
Okay. Well, there we have it. So we should talk about Doctor Who.
Yeah.
So it just the kind of like nuts and grits of this is we have these two, Erica and Douglas, who have both been established. They're coming to work to their very important jobs.
They're both having off days.
They're having off days. poor Erica gets her glasses broken.
Thanks to her flatmate.
Yeah, thanks to her
Could have
flatmate.
been her husband. We don't know.
Oh.
I thought for some reason that
Actually, I think it's just a guy who lives in the same
she
complex.
seemed pretty flirty at work. To me, I don't know if maybe that was not the case, but
I did not get that.
you did not get that?
I got the way that she seemed irritated about her purse being shut in the door. Felt like somebody you're very familiar with. Whether that could be a significant other, a family member. It could have been her.
Yeah.
She could live with her brother for all we know, but
Yeah.
you don't normally get that style irritated with somebody that's just live in the same apartment complex.
Yeah. I mean, at first I did think, okay, this could be, a husband or boyfriend or somebody like that. But I don't know, there's just something like the way that how she reacted to Douglas and the doctor and all that was with a level of excitement.
I didn't sense her getting flirty with Douglas or the doctor, really, but
Well, then it was probably just me.
did you sense her being flirty?
I did not sense that she was put off by the doctor's flirtiness.
Okay, but that's almost though like getting praised by the teacher more than because at first when the doctor first appears, she is put off. She's like, "Well, who are you? And why are you
a
telling me what
man
to do?"
just appeared out of a box that materialized in her probably normally very secure lab area.
But once it's clear the doctor's brilliant in saving them, then she does seem quite amenable to the doctor being a bit generous, gregarious. But again, it's like if a professor at school starts praising me, I'm going to soak it up.
But you'd also be alarmed if they showed up in a box out of nowhere.
Well, if I'm at school, then chances are I showed up out of nowhere and I'm in their space.
We seem to be ignoring the, alien in a time machine
Yes.
aspect of this, but that's fine.
Yes. So there's just a big question mark around Erica and her relations with the glasses breaking man.
Ultimately,
Oh, that was his credit.
Yes.
ultimately, it's not that important.
It isn't.
Whether she is single, taken, or something in between,
I mean, she could have
irrelevant.
been quite taken
By the doctor?
by the doctor, by Douglas.
He did. No, Douglas. I get the impression they're not together, but
Well, I mean, quite taken. Like, oh, I'm quite taken with you, or you're quite taken with me. But Douglas was not taken with anything except his
Viruses.
his hangover.
his bottle of Advil.
His bacteria that made him dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what's up with Nardole? Is he okay?
No.
No.
So I think we found a particularly useful bit. I feel like a little piece of the Nardole mystery.
The doctor bought him human lungs.
Yes. So it's just he did put him back together. I think we question: is he a robot, or it seems like he's kind of Frankenstein together?
So we don't know what's going to happen with Nardole, but I imagine because as much as I like the episode, there were several hand wavy things, and I imagine Nardole will be one of those. Like I bet you, once he went back in the TARDIS had some sort of filter that got rid of the bacteria.
It seemed like it was actually going in the TARDIS is what hurt him.
Oh,
Because he doesn't pass out until he flips the switch, and then like the TARDIS is like pumping in mists, and then he falls over.
well, I think that he was just so sick already, and then he
Because Douglas didn't keel over immediately either.
yeah.
He had a couple minutes of action, and then he keeled over, then he instantly turned to goo.
So
But now I'm worried Nardole's lungs are goo. Like the rest of him is fine, but his lungs aren't.
But what I'm thinking is that going in the TARDIS is going to have some sort of field that got rid of the toxins that he might have been knocked out, but he will recover. So that seems like
they just needed a device so he couldn't
right.
get the TARDIS back in, or
He could not act with the doctor's eyes because
yes,
the doctor was like, Nardole, you have a camera, activate it. And he couldn't.
yeah.
But again, that's one of the what I'm getting at is that's one of many little like kind of clever, too cute scenarios that arose from this episode.
Yeah.
If that's one weakness, I think it's some of those things.
Yeah. So these people who were working at a bacteria lab.
No. So Argo Fuel, they appear to be using plants to make methane.
Methane.
She said methane, didn't she?
I think she did say methane. Those Brits are slipping.
Oh.
They were using plants to make methane, which basically they're trying to get fuel from plants.
Mm-hmm.
But to get whatever bacteria converts that plant material into the gas, apparently in his drunkenness, Douglas mixed the wrong bacteria and it created a super bacteria. So something, again, little hand wavy. Don't worry about it too much.
Yeah, it wasn't clear exactly what those tubes were, but he put in way too much of one of the tubes.
Yeah, yeah. It was an effect of, oh my gosh, what did you do? So yeah, it was one of those things where just the right hurricane of events happened with Erica breaking her glasses, which really to me didn't stand out too much as like a big issue. It seemed more that Douglas was so out of it that he was still working and then created this big problem.
Well, she does tell Douglas, "You'll have to do it because I broke my reading glasses."
Well, there you go.
So if she had done it, she probably wouldn't have created the super bacteria.
Right. So there you go. Thank you for correcting me. Fact checking here on the Arrow of Time. And all the while we have the scene where the doctor pulls up with Unit to the pyramid. And here's one of the things that I really liked was the breakdown of, Bill kind of discovering that this was not a pyramid, that this was an alien spaceship, with the doctor just, asking her, okay, well, what do you think? And then she just said, well, thousands of year old pyramid just came here yesterday. It's not really a pyramid, is it?
But part of it actually comes from the doctor's blindness, because the first thing he asks her is, tell me exactly what you see. And he keeps questioning her, because I do believe, as good as the doctor was with Bill when he still had his sight, in this scenario, he might have been a little bit less inclined to be teaching her.
He's more relying on her.
Yes.
But
the first thing he says is, tell me what you see.
But in the tone of teaching her.
Right.
Kind of disguising that. Yes. But it just kind of shows like the stripes of Bill as a companion. Of like, wow, yeah, she's definitely not like what's going on? I don't understand this.
No, yeah, she's great.
She's like right off the bat really sharp, which is cool. And I do enjoy like the little bit with Nardole talking in his like one of his little buttons or whatever, the little latch things on his coat, through the microphone, telling the doctor what exactly is happening. Bill's like, what are you doing? I'm updating him.
Yeah, that was pretty good. And actually, if we're going to be quite fair, for as smart and observant as Bill is, that should have been the moment that she was like,
yeah,
the doctor's blind. Because when we see a door opening right in front of the doctor, and then Nardole's like, something's happening.
Yes.
And then the monks come out, and like, the monks are coming out. It's like,
I think they're the monks from your dream. Yes. Like, okay.
Yeah, that should have definitely signaled to her that. I guess though there was, I'll dial back a little bit, because just a little bit further on, the doctor tells Bill, "Get that look off your face."
Yes.
And she was making it, so you can excuse her for thinking that the doctor.
Because there are those little bits where it's like, oh well, wait, okay, well maybe not. What's going on here?
But that was actually another really great Dr. Bill moment, when, because we don't actually know how long Bill's been his companion.
Right.
It could maybe be approaching a year plus at this point. But regardless, they're close enough that Bill is shocked when the doctor calls for attacking the pyramid.
Yes, that is true.
And the doctor, sort of silences her with his little speech that they did not come here in peace. We have to do what we can. So again, that's the doctor, which I think we've already seen that once this season, or certainly with Capaldi, where he decides to act with extreme force, and the companion's shocked, like, oh, this is not very doctor-like.
Do you remember that happening, Joseph? No. Okay, good.
There we go.
No.
Maybe not this season, but that's definitely something that's happened before, with the doctor more or less declaring war, violence, and the companion being shocked.
Yeah. So, yeah, with that whole like, hey, wait a second, we're not supposed to be doing this. It's all because you think that the doctor's going to be like, no, I'm about peace. We're not going to do this. We're not going to get into crazy war. And I think that the audience is a little bit more keen to that. Thinking about it now, where we're like, what is it, like, this is the 6th episode?
Yes.
So,
right,
with a new companion running into this, she should probably not be as alarmed by that as she was.
7th episode.
7th episode. We're getting up there, guys.
So, but again, that's why I brought up the point of we're not quite sure how long she's been there, but she clearly gets that the doctor tries to avoid conflict.
Right.
So when the doctor's like, yeah, hit him with all you got, she's understandably shaken.
Yes.
But even he admits it's not going to do anything. So it's more just a flashy show than actually attack.
Does he admit that beforehand?
Yeah.
Oh.
No, he says, it probably won't do anything, but it'll show unity.
Right, and it's so less about the actual fighting and the attacking, and more about
the symbolic.
So because they're an advanced alien species, and really advanced from what we've now learned. I mean, they can fix the doctor's eyes remotely without any sort of indication.
Well, so that when I was talking about hand wavy earlier, that's one of the things I wrote down. And I'm waving a pad of paper, folks, because my tablet was dead.
Oh, wow.
So I actually pulled out pen and paper and wrote down my observations while watching.
Wrote down complaints.
Not complaints. Yeah, so they really needed to find a way to explain how they fixed his eyes remotely like that.
Right, yeah. There were a lot of the Gauntlet of Rassilon, or Glove of Rassilon.
Yeah, like just a literal hand wave. Like, I mean, they could have just beamed some light onto his face, and one of the security cameras nearby. It's like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so we know they have transporters. Mm-hmm. So maybe they transported some healing nanites into his eyes. But then, why did the doctor have access to healing nanites?
Although I will say, now this episode made sense why the way he can only see what he saw is because he could only see things the sonic screwdriver would normally affect, which isn't people. It can tell him about the person, but otherwise it doesn't do anything to a person.
Was the combination lock made of wood?
No, that he could see the tumblers, but he couldn't see what was written on them.
Okay,
so obviously that was some sort of non-sonicable ink.
So just by looking at it, I got the impression that it was made of wood. Like it didn't have that sleekness that was like,
It was a very odd lock.
Yeah.
I don't think any lock in the history of ever has ever looked like that.
Yeah.
Because normally it would just be a keypad.
That would have been a great little bit though. Like, oh yeah, it's made of wood.
That would have been great. That would have been really
oh
good.
No.
I would have said that. Yeah. Now that still doesn't explain why the Doctor and the TARDIS don't have some sort of magical eye fixing method.
They should look into that.
Yeah, they really should.
Yes.
But that said, if he's using the sonic for his sight, it can only see what the sonic can affect.
So, actually getting when they have their first meeting, that first good old meeting with the monks. The monks you actually see them tapping into the wires and all that, and seeing like all the different possible outcomes and all that. And the leaders. This is one of the things where it seems like it is making a big statement about power. Because the monks are saying that they need to be asked. They'll take over the world. They'll save the world, but they need to be asked to do it. They need consent.
Correct.
And they need consent by powerful people.
The people in power, yes.
Or yes, the people in power. And so they have the list of questions that they ask them. There is the first gentleman.
The Secretary General of the United Nations.
Secretary General of United Nations. And he was the first one to give consent. And the monks sensed that he was fearful. So I thought that was interesting.
Right. So they said that you give consent out of fear, which is not consent. And they first warned them, if your consent is not genuine, it will kill you.
Yes.
So because he was consenting out of fear, so in other words, he's being coerced into consent, which is not consent.
Right. Oh, then there's the mention of them, their appearance, that they chose their appearance.
They look like corpses because humans are all walking corpses.
Which,
that's just rude.
That is very rude.
Well, sort of like what the doctor was saying at the very beginning, though. You're all dead. You're all dying.
From the moment, yeah.
But we're not there yet.
This is very defeatist.
So the next ones, they get vaporized because their consent is out of strategy.
Which is not...
It's still not...
It's not consent.
It's not genuine.
It's a trick.
You're trying to...
And these are the... is it just
It's the leaders of the three...
It's the generals that are in charge of the U.S. Army, the Chinese Army, and the Russian Army.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so it seems like it's mainly like the U.S. talking with all of the... Well, you got the 3 biggest armies here in the world, so yeah, that's where power... Like, it has that kind of like...
Well, it wasn't just the U.S. talking. In fact...
Braggadocio.
It wasn't just the U.S. talking. In fact, it was the Chinese general that had the idea of, well, let's just agree now not to start war.
Right.
And, she had them all shake on it. So it really wasn't. It was more or less the U.S. Army and the Chinese Army with the Russians there for color.
Right. So, they, again, want to do strategy, and then the consent is not true. They are vaporized. So the doctor is very against them doing this. Because it's like, you don't know what it will lead to.
Yes, he warns them that it will have consequences you can't possibly imagine.
Right.
And also, there was nice little moments, like right from the minute the doctor goes up to the pyramid the first time, he starts off with, this is a line in the sand, and I'm what's standing on the other side of it.
Yes. There's a lot of great moments like that.
And the line I jotted down was, planet Earth has been doomed before. Guess what happened? Me. So, yeah. I mean, but again, without being the long drawn out, like part of what I loved most about the Zygon inversion was the doctor's speech at the end.
Right.
That speech, it was a long one too. It was like pushing a minute, if I remember, was just filled with good stuff. We didn't have that here. We had little one-liners and quips, but they serve the same general...
Oh, definitely. Yeah. They definitely do the same thing.
Or I shouldn't say the same thing, because the speech he made at the end of the Zygon inversion was actually meaningful.
Oh, yeah, it was huge. It was the big, tasty nuggets. Actually, no, it was a tasty feast.
Yes.
And these were tasty nuggets.
These were reminders that the doctor is committed to saving humanity without the commentary that he sprinkled in through the inversion speech.
Right, definitely. Did you like the speeches? Did Joseph? Mm-hmm. Good. I just wanted to make sure that you're still with us.
Yeah, the little line that he threw in there, trying to convince them not to do it, is being smart is not giving away your planet.
Yes, I love that.
So now the big question is all this stuff about consent some weird hang up these aliens have, or is it about loopholes? Because we all know about things like the other aliens who would try to invade the Earth are actually breaking some galactic rules. And so is this their way around the rules?
I think at least partly, but the Doctor also does say, oh yes, of course, you need the people to love you because it's too hard to rule through fear. So I do believe it's probably skirting the intergalactic regulations.
Yeah.
But also, from a practical standpoint, if you are a conquering force and the people fear you and hate you, they're going to fight you until either they're all dead or you're all dead. This way is much, much simpler.
Simplistic is what we're looking for. I enjoyed... There's a lot of twists and turns, or at least there's cleverness. I like cleverness when it happens, when it rears its head in Doctor Who. And there were a couple different points, just like the time where they said, we need to find out where this one place is. If these monks are looking at it from a screen, we'll just turn them all off, and whatever the first one to pop on is. Like, I know that's a thing that has been used before, maybe not necessarily in Doctor Who, but in other things. Like, it's familiar. It's like, well, whatever the first thing to turn on, that's... I love that, though. I love it's like it's the enemy giving themselves away so they can continue to do their plottiness.
I will say, though, that there are many conclusions jumped to as they're trying to figure out if it's not World War, then what destroys the human race. And the Doctor almost immediately stumbles across bacteria, viruses, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
like, that's the very first thing you think of?
No, actually, he went to bacteria because viruses won't kill everything.
Right, but that was the very first train of thought, and then they narrowed it down super quick to the actual correct answer. Way quicker than I think even the Doctor could pull off, given the sheer number of possible things. Because at that point, you don't even know it's a man-made problem. It could be a natural disaster that's about to occur.
Okay, so one little point there. When all of the humans were given the glimpse of the future,
right,
they almost all instantly recoil in horror. And all we see as viewers is a brief few glimpses of like a dystopian graveyard.
Right.
The Doctor hangs on for almost a minute, long after they've let go. We don't know what he saw. And furthermore, like, one of the generals was telling the Doctor, you seem, quite okay with this. And the Doctor was like, well, I've seen plenty of dead planets.
Yeah, this is not my first dead planet.
Yeah. But yeah, so there could have been more that he saw that led him to that conclusion that we didn't see.
And I like that too, just that it just shows like, the Doctor's just a little bit different than everybody who's just thinking on a different plane than everybody by just saying, oh, yeah, sorry. Please excuse my enthusiasm or not, or excuse my not adversiveness to this, because I see this a lot. Because
the monks offered this as proof that the world was going to end.
Right.
And what we saw as the viewers, a couple glimpses of like a abandoned, desolate city is not enough proof. I mean, you can make that in, Photoshop or whatever. So there had to be more that we didn't see when everybody like dropped their cable in horror and looked away. And then even more that the Doctor saw. And furthermore, if we start speculating here, the Doctor does have some like telekinetic powers. We don't know once he tapped into that network if he could have like seen more than the monks intended him to see. So there's plenty of room there to navigate.
I will mention though that while watching that, I did kind of feel like that was some big leaps. Although what you've just said, Gabe, has kind of smoothed that over for me a little bit. But
It does require some work, but it's possible.
I just always, it kind of reminded me a little bit of the classic Batman Adam West show with the Riddler, and it would just be like these like crazy riddles, and then they'd immediately jump like, oh, of course it's this, and and they knew it was a joke when they were writing it, but it was just like these insane, completely like this would come to nobody, but yeah, Batman and Robin would just be like right there getting it, and it would be like these completely random, obtuse things. So, and it just seemed like that scene was kind of happening. Oh, wait a second. Yeah, of course, Nardole. That's exactly what it is. So, I do, though, like the idea. So I don't know if it was intended to be like that. If they're just kind of like, okay, we got to wrap this episode up. Sometimes I'm thinking that, Gabe, you write this episode better than it actually was written.
No, I mean, I think there's a little bit of work the viewer has to do to make it, to smooth over some of the rough bits.
Yeah.
But it's not a stretch.
Yeah, no. So they find it out. They find out that it's happening in this laboratory.
Argo fuels.
And there's that whole scene with Douglas doing all the wrong things.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to do this, and like just opening the door, like leaving every possible door open.
Well, so first he opens the little enclosure where the plants were, and with an ungloved hand scoops out some of the liquid.
Yeah.
Then runs, opens the airlocks, leaves them both wide open.
Which shouldn't even be possible. I mean, I don't know much about safety protocols inside these sorts of labs, but I'm willing to bet you can't open both doors at the same time. Like, at the very least, a light or something will be blinking at you.
Yes.
Oops. Sorry.
And that's the show, folks. Yes. That's our outro music.
Sorry.
Oh.
I've started the show with an audio gaff, and I'm closing with an audio gaff.
Oh, good.
You're just like Douglas, except more alive.
Yes. The gaffes aren't deadly.
Yes.
So,
Final thoughts?
Final thoughts. So I really like the part, especially at the end, where it's like, yay, I've solved everything. Don't worry about it. Like, it was so good the way that things were wrapped up, except there's just this one little thing of, oh no, I'm blind, and he has to tell Bill about this, and he just realized, like, I can't pass through here. Don't worry about me blowing up. It's going to happen.
Well, presumably he would have regenerated.
Yeah, right.
But
he's going to regenerate at the end of the season anyway. So,
but actually, that was a fun little ending, because the doctor sets the bomb, and the doomsday clock immediately begins reversing, and the monks go into a panic and start looking at futures to try and figure out how they can mess this up.
Right.
And the doctor is happy doing his little dance. He's like, I'm blind and I beat you.
Yes.
And starts making his way to the exit. And then, oh no.
I know this is another, like, dare I say, trope, but just the idea of, like, okay, I did everything right, but there's this one little thing that I didn't think of, or something that I overlooked that is going to bring me down, and I'm sorry. And I feel like this probably happened with Lost.
I think this probably was the plot of Lost.
Yes. I feel like I remember a couple of these moments in Lost. We got rid of some characters this way because they didn't have what the doctor had. But the fact is that probably the only way that she was going to be that Bill was able to give consent was, true love. Because when you think about it, humanity was no longer doomed. It was only the doctor. She was only doing this to save the doctor. Honestly, I thought that I was like, aren't you gonna like pop him on the side where he won't get exploded or whatever?
Yeah, it's sort of like the genie wish thing where
Yeah.
luckily in this case they didn't require super precision. But what they did say to him
Right.
was kind of chilling. He was like, "Okay, doctor, you have your sight back. Now see our world."
Yes.
The monks are kind of, a little twisted.
Yeah, gotcha.
So they didn't want to kill him because they wanted him to see the world that he lost.
Yeah, definitely. And here's the thing. Here's one of the reasons why I like this so much. So first off, the whole love thing. I love that where just consenting, making the sacrifice of love. I'm always a fan of that. Great for story making. Secondly, I really like the build of Extremis to just the way that these two episodes went, where they're all their own story. It is a story arc, but the story, like the main plot of Extremis, gets solved at the end of it. The doctor solves it. It doesn't just like leave you hanging into like, here's one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. It finishes it ties it all up, but then the result of what they did then leads into another story. Maybe as we found, not so much Extremis because they had to kind of like restart it again, but definitely with this one, they had the monks, they solved the problem completely, but then because of that one last thing that they had to do to save the doctor, then the way that they saved the day, opened up for another story. So it opened up a whole nother problem.
Right.
So we fixed this one, but by doing that one, then we opened up another can, which is basically supernatural.
Well,
that's how their seasons go. It's a chain.
Well, but this, so this right here, I think is more appropriately considered serialized television than it is a three-parter. Because all three parts can stand on their own.
Yeah.
But they all three directly feed into the next.
Right. Thoughts, Joseph?
No, thank you.
Well, one of the weird things for me is just to think that more or less this 3-season arc, this little serial, is written by 3 different writers.
Yeah, that is odd.
Because what we had with Extremis was just Moffat. Pyramid at the End of the World was Harness and Moffat. And then the next one will be called The Lie of the Land. Not The Lay of the Land, The Lie of the Land. And that'll be by Toby Whithouse of Being Human.
With House.
Who I really like Being Human, so I'm excited. And he's written...
Yeah.
He gave us School Reunion and a few others from Doctor Who. So I'm excited to see what he gives us. But it is, I think, a little unusual to have such a tightly knit arc be written by 3 different people.
Right. Yeah.
Especially when 2 of them aren't Stephen Moffat.
Exactly. Yeah, usually Stephen Moffat will jump on that. Stephen Moffat started it out, had doused his pen a little bit in this one, and then is completely hands off for the third. So
What gives Stephen? Oh, he's too busy doing his other shows.
it does seem like he's kind of taking a break from Doctor Who right now.
Stephen Moffat?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
He's not doing as much as he has done in the past, it feels like.
Well, no, so... You mean like...
Writing.
Oh. Well, no, he's gonna have written 4 episodes this season plus half if you include his half credit for Pyramid.
Oh, never mind.
That's a normal amount for him.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like a whole... I guess what I'm thinking is, if this is your final season of Doctor Who, of this thing that you've loved and planned so many big, gigantic, crazy arcs and done so many different things with. It seems like you would maybe want to be invested more or write more of the episodes, or I don't know. That it just seems like this is your show, so I mean you can write all the episodes if you want. I mean that's your thing. I mean, kudos to him, giving other people a chance, but I'm skeptical. I'm still skeptical about the survival gal.
Oh, right. Well, see how that goes.
That's in the future.
We will have to see.
But we got Toby Whithouse.
So right now we have Toby Whithouse next, followed by Mark Gatiss, then Rona Munro of the Seventh Doctor adventure.
Fame.
Yes.
And then we finished the season with 2 Moffats back to back.
2 Moffats back to back.
Sounds like a nightmare.
Actually, if you include Christmas, we have 3 Moffats back to back.
Oh.
Ooh.
But then we get the new guy. Chibnall.
So there's been some rumors that the Doctor, and maybe you can help clear this up, Gabe, that the Doctor is going to regenerate mid-season, not in the Christmas special.
Everything that I've heard. Okay, so I know what you're talking about because in the
Are they doing a David Tennant thing again with where he sort of regenerates?
Oh, good.
Well, no, I know what you're talking about because
The handy Doctor.
in the trailer they show the Doctor starting to regenerate.
Right.
So there's a lot of theories about what's up with that, but everything we've heard from Moffat and BBC is that Capaldi will regenerate in the Christmas special. Now, Moffat could be lying, but I doubt it. I honestly believe that we're going to get a full season of Capaldi and Bill. But that does make me think. One of my things that I've been thinking all season is I'm really sad that we're only getting these episodes with Capaldi and Bill because they are so good together.
They are very good together. So, this begs the question, Gabe.
Could Chibnall say, Mr. Capaldi, can we please keep you?
Who's the Doctor's flagship companion?
The 12th Doctor?
Yeah.
I would say it has to be Bill.
Clara or Bill. So, kind of like, in a way, it's kind of funny, but the 10th Doctor, because you always think, oh, well, Rose, but I see like the 10th Doctor getting remembered with Donna a lot.
Poor Martha.
Poor Martha. She was great. She was like my favorite. But
she was stuck in the middle.
She was
stuck in the middle with you.
So anyway, it almost kind of seems like then the flagship companion of the 12th Doctor then would be Bill.
Yeah. I mean, but it really comes down to the fact that
we're only a couple episodes in and we're saying this. Maybe you listening to this disagree, which is cool.
We're more than half the episodes in.
Yes. It comes down to the fact that as much as I liked Clara was a little bit of an Uber companion. You know, she was a little too Doctor-like.
Yeah.
And that's probably why Martha's often disregarded, is because she was a little too clever, a little too smart. Not that Bill isn't clever and smart, but Bill definitely feels like you could put yourself in her shoes.
Yeah.
And most of us couldn't put ourselves in Martha's shoes as a clever, brave doctor.
A literal doctor.
Yeah, she was sort of a match for the Doctor. Much in the same way that Nardole is sort of a match for Capaldi, for the Doctor.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us are putting ourselves in Nardole's shoes. the only reason Nardal works as a companion is because Bill is there to be us. And Nardal is this kind of clever alien that can fly the TARDIS and hack into every security camera on Earth in a drop of a hat. He's very much the match for the Doctor.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. I like that. I like that breakdown. Definitely makes sense. So, well said, Gabe.
Thanks.
I wish I had more to add to that, but I don't, because that was, you sold me.
I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, and I was always a big fan of Clara on this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I still love Clara, the character. But I really think if she had been the sort of Nardal-like third companion, it might have worked better if we had somebody else in the TARDIS that was more like just a normal, everyday person.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, and when they were making these, like, bigger than normal companions, it's kind of hard to put yourself into the, impossible girl or the girl who waited or the
right, but even
bad wolf.
Even with Amy, who definitely had her moments as just an everyday girl, but we also had Rory there as a stand-in that we could kind of identify with.
And we loved Rory.
Right, and I'm not saying that Rory was any slouch, but he definitely had that position as, okay, if Amy is a girl with a crack on her wall who is exceptional, then we can identify with Rory as just some dude, just some guy.
Exactly. But I just remember, like, all of us really liking Rory.
Yeah.
For his incredible acting talent. Anyways, good stuff. I highly approve.
Oh, good.
So what did you think of this episode, Joseph?
It was okay.
Did you like it?
Yeah, I did like it. I did love it. I liked it. It was nice.
I think you took a nap during the episode.
I think you took a nap during this podcast.
It's late. Like, every me looks at the clocks. Like, no, it's not. It's 2 p.m.
Well, do you have anything else, Matt?
Oh, I think I have something else.
Do you have a HooTube, perhaps?
I do have a HooTube. Let me dig it out of my pants.
Oh, no. Put that away.
So, today's HooTube is Doctor Who, The Universe Owes Me. I like the title. By the TARDIS Guy 203. It's a great video. Has different span of multiple doctors. Love the multiple doctors. That's it. Ooh, there's a little buzzy whenever I put my phone near the audio recording device. Sorry about that. But yeah, a lot of excitement. Go check it out. It's a fun video. Well done, TARDIS Guy 203. Well, go check out all your other videos.
And check us out.
Check us out at aotpodcast.com, your one-stop shop for all of your AOT podcast links and routes. Just like our Twitter. Tweet us at AOT Podcast, or go to our YouTube page, AOT Podcast. Go to our Facebook. You can just go ahead and search Arrow of Time. Or you can go to iTunes, look us up there, rate us, write a review, because we like that sort of thing. We've been getting some good coverage on Facebook.
Yeah.
Been enjoying that. It was really funny, though. I noticed that occasionally we'll get angry faces, and I think it is because of our titles. Because we have, like, negative sounding titles. And I think people just look at the title, as people do generally on Facebook. They just look at the title and they go, "You hate this."
And actually, if you listen to this podcast, at least 2 of us have liked every episode this season.
That's true. That's true.
Maybe not the same two,
Right.
Usually the same.
but usually, yeah.
Gabe has liked all of them.
I didn't care for Smile.
I liked Smile.
The rest of them have been some of the best Who I've seen.
Right.
Going right back to Christmas, the Return of Dr. Mysterio. This has been the past 4 months have been Doctor Who gold for me.
Doctor Who Gold, everybody. Gabe is having his heyday. Joseph is
I'm having my payday? No.
very middling for Joseph.
Yeah.
Still, we all, I think, agree that we hate the title sequence.
Oh,
Yes, that's one thing we can come together.
That's Chibnall. It's your first task. Get rid of that.
Get rid of that.
Get rid of the clocks. Don't make different clocks. Just no clocks.
No clocks. It's never been clocks before, despite what somebody will probably tell me online.
Okay, well, I guess that is it for this episode of The Arrow of Time. I have been Matt.
I have been Joseph.
And I have been Gabe.
And this has been The Arrow of Time. Fog of Death Planet.
You're just like Douglas, except more alive.
They botched it.
I don't think they botched it, but
They botched it. They botched it, Gabe.
put that away.
Don't finish that sentence.
Oh, this is going to a place.